Diva started her career working in the documentary world. She went to film school, her career switched to the narrative. She believes in collaboration, everything that you do have to trust each other. This is what Diva says, right? This is her quote. You may not take every note, but everyone needs to feel heard and listened to. If you are here, you belong here. Ooh. Shout out to Diva. And then let's give it up for Bianca Valencia, the music supervisor of the Queen Lady. Raised and born in Los Angeles, she graduated from Chapman University, TV journalism and broadcasting. She discovered her true passion for film by immersing herself in foreign cinema. Now as a film and music supervisor, she has worked on National Geographic, A24, and Neon. Shout out to Bianca. Let's welcome one of our writers, ELENA Ciprioso. She's known for The Cleaning Lady, Clarice, and Yellow Rose. She started in All My Children. It's going to correlate two screenplays with Civilian Studios. Her pilot was finalist at the Creative World Awards, and her spec, The Walking Dead, Little Children, was a semi-finalist in the Creative World Awards and also top 10% of the Austin Film Festival TV competition. Let's please welcome ELENA Cipriaso! Ay nako, guys! Cipriaso pala! Oh my gosh! I'm so sorry, ELENA. I owe you a drink later, huh?
No, Selena's right here. Oh, Selena's sorry.
ELENA's here. I know ELENA because she helped cast me, so I have to thank her. You know, I have to take her for a drink. And then another person who helped cast me, speaking of that, the writer of the episode I was on, the incredible DENISE HAHN, known for Cyber, and The Fix. Alright guys, I'll take it up to Mr. Leo Albea to moderate this.
And of course,
let's bring back out Miss RUBY IBARRA.
Hi everyone. Hi again, Miranda. Yeah, so super exciting. I think now we can really dive deep into the creation behind the Cleaning Lady and really understand, you know, for writers, editors, musicians, how do we come to such a piece of art? And I think where I want to start is everyone answering down the line. Because I think for us, as Filipino Americans, as Asian Americans, it's important that we have people to look up to. Oftentimes that was hard because we didn't see those people, but they very much so existed. And so my first question is, who is your mentor and how did they impact your career? Maybe Miranda, if you want to start.
I'm actually going to say
I'm going to say my mother is my mentor. I mean, absolutely. She taught me everything I know. She taught me how to be strong, how to navigate the world, how to always look to myself for my strength and ingenuity. She was all those things to me. She sacrificed everything for me. She sacrificed her own happiness for me so that I could have everything, that I could have all the love she could give me. And that, I think, you know, even though I am pretty sure that my mom never cleaned crime scenes for the mall, you know, I think this show is a lot of a love letter to my mother for everything she taught me. It is about a mother doing anything she can for her child, and that is what my experience is.
Well, my mentor was I had two mentors. My first mentor was he just died recently. His name's Robert Dava, and he was an editor on Jurassic Park 3 and on Hidalgo. And working with him, like, it made me realize, like, you know, you heard that quote about the room, but it made me realize that everyone you work with, you are there to give them what you have. You know, so you have to find out what your strongest thing inside of you is and give it to your team, because that is like the most important thing. And you learn, you are curious and ask questions and learn your skills. Get them down as hard as you can. And then my second mentor is, her name is Jennifer Barbo. She's a crazy wild editor. She edits everything. And she just taught me about, like, be free. don't like try and follow all the rules. Like, just experiment as much as you can and then come back to what you think fits with what the work is. So those are great things.
I'm thinking about the answer to this question. It's kind of hard to slim it down to just a few people. There have been so many people that have been so influential in my life. To echo what Miranda said, a lot of the matriarchs and women, strong women in my family have such a huge influence on me. I do have a lot of mentors within the music and film industries as well, but I think my biggest influence is probably my two grandmothers and my sister and all of my cousins. So yeah, all the strong women in my family really influenced me, and they were actually the people who believed in me when maybe my parents didn't, or certain people who were more taking a more pragmatic approach. They said, be a lawyer, be a doctor, don't follow a creative field that's not stable. But then my sister was there for me from the beginning, always believed in me. So those are people who influenced me and who are also kind of a mentor in a way to me.
I've been really lucky. Like Miranda, I'm my mother's daughter. She's a union leader. She was a national union leader. She spent, her formative years being a nurse. She didn't want to be a nurse. She wanted to be a lawyer. But how do you get your green card? You come and you become a nurse, and she didn't want to be one. So she became the next best version. She worked for 30 years on her feet, and she became a leader of the nurses union in Maryland, the VA, and then she became a national union leader, fighting for the Filipino nurses, fighting for all nurses. So she is very much in my mind this week as WGA Solidarity, as we're rushing to the picket lines. Another mentor of mine I lost last year was my brother, and most of what I am right now, I am because of him. Because he taught me that we don't have to be silent about our upbringing, the trauma that we grow up with. We're often told as Asian Americans, as Filipino Americans, not to speak our minds, not to speak our truths. And it was one day, there was a feud that was going on in our family that we don't talk about. All those feuds, right? Filipinos have a hard time letting go of grudges. And,
Say less.
Before there was like printers and shit, he wrote stuff on loose leaf paper, and he wrote about our family feud on loose leaf paper, and he wrote it out as an essay, and he left it on the kitchen counter, and I read it, and he left it out for all of us to read, and no one ever talked about it. But that's why I'm a writer today, is because he showed me the power of words. Another writer who is very important to me is Ken Lin. He, while I was on Star Trek Discovery working 60-hour weeks, I never asked Ken to ever read my stuff, but he just kept the same hours all the time. And so he asked to read one of my pieces, and he didn't ask me, why do you have a Filipino mafia in your script? Why do you have a pregnant Filipina shooting someone? And I was like, just because I wanted a pregnant Filipina to shoot someone on page 2. And he was like, I'll write that, just do it. And it was very much about promoting Asian American talent. So he gave me, and this is why I always say it's never too late to change a career. I got my first writing gig at 39 on Clarice before I moved on to The Cleaning Lady, and have worked under very much mentor to me, Miranda and Denise, who have kind of just, many people, you'll hear a lot in the press right now about people who aren't allowed on set, like just how coming up younger people like me don't get the chance to go on set, don't get the chance to learn. Miranda made it a thing to make sure we got on set. And so I'm an executive story editor that's been on set twice, and one of the reasons I know what the hell to do on set is because of Denise.
I'm detecting a theme here. We have a lot of family members who we view as mentors, and I think I have a very similar story. Anytime an Asian American goes into a creative field, I think you might be up against some family expectations or be going against some family expectations. For me, the person who supported me the most was also my brother, and it's just the two of us in our family, and my dad has a small laser optics business in Colorado. I'm Korean American, and the expectation was that somebody would help take over the family business, as I'm sure is a common story among many of us. And my brother saw a talent in me, and he decided that I was going to be the one to pursue both of our dreams for us. So I came to LA and I pursued writing, which is terrifying, especially now, given the writer's strike. But it's those people who believe in us and support us. You know, every one of us standing here up here has some family member or friend who lifted them up, who told them they could pursue their dream and with their full support. So I credit my brother very much to that. And professionally, one of my mentors is Jason Katims. He was the showrunner of Friday Night Lights and Parenthood, and I was able to work on 3 shows with him, and he really taught how sacred and special the writer's room is. As writers, you might see us doing press, you might see us, you know, being on set, and all of it is so important to the shows that we create, but what we do in the writer's room is where the magic happens. And right now, that sacred space is very much under threat, and that is why we are picketing every single day. So I encourage you guys to, you know, especially if you want to be a writer, but also if you want to be a director, if you want to be a producer, if you want to be an actor, you know, look up ways that you can support our efforts on picket lines, read up on the issues, because it really affects the whole community. So yeah.
When I think about that question, I think about it in 2 ways. Because I think it's important to acknowledge both. One, who first made me see, you know, being a performer as a possibility, and 2, who guided me, who supported me, who provided the resources for me. First, I think the very first time that I even, you know, thought that it was possible for a Filipino American to be on a TV screen, to be in Hollywood, was Dante Bosco. I remember watching Cook as a little 5-year-old kid and seeing him as Rufio for the very first time. I was like, what, he's Filipino? Just seeing his character made me feel like I could be a superhero in my personal life. And I remember, for me too, for to answer the other question of like who's been my mentor in my life personally, it really is my mother. Like I talk about in my songs. She's always guided me and supported me 100% in pursuing the arts. And I know that for a lot of young Filipino American creatives, that may not necessarily be the case, you know, for a lot of us growing up, whereas I think someone already had mentioned, there tends to be sometimes a pushback, especially from our immigrant, you know, families and our parents, because of the stability of, you know, the arts. But hopefully, you know, tides are changing. But for me in particular, my mom never planted that seed of doubt in my head, never made me feel like it was an impossibility to become an artist and to pursue music full time. If anything, I feel like she made it easier for me to fly, easier for me to succeed. And just to give it a brief example, as I was finishing my senior year of high school, and I was thinking about, how do I map out my future? What do I do from here? Like, how do I shape my life and path as an adult? I remember at the time I was thinking I was gonna get into med school, and so I applied to all of the UCs and all across California, what I thought had the best program that could get me into med school, and I ended up at UC Davis actually. And shout out to all our STEM folks out there. I majored in biochemistry, molecular biology, and I was pre-med initially. And I remember when I was submitting my applications, I didn't know my mom had done her own research, and she gave me this folder of papers that she had printed out. She said, "Hey, I found this school for you. It's in Florida. This is a recording school where you can be a music engineer. Like, why don't you go out there and you pursue your dreams?" And 18-year-old me was like, "Is this a trick question?" Am I being put under a test right now? But ultimately, I obviously, I followed the path of going to the sciences and trying to have, or pursuing a backup career just in case music didn't make it for myself, wasn't sustainable enough. But 2 years ago, I am proud to say that music paid me more than I got in my science job. So now I am a full-time artist, a full-time musician. And again, just to summarize, the question, it really was my mom who was my number one inspiration and number one cheerleader this entire time.
Wow. I give it up for all of the answers.